Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Esteemed FaceTime with Leaders, an initiative by World Development Corporation. I'm Sunny Bancholi, anchor at World Development Corporation. FaceTime with Leaders is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. In a nutshell, we attempt to encapsulate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by these industry leaders. We also hope that by conducting these FaceTime with Leaders interviews, we can bring together a global community of eminent personalities. By bringing together such visionaries on one platform, we hope to play a part in inspiring the lives of other leaders. Great learnings from great leaders undoubtedly assist everyone by identifying, nurturing, and using the trade secrets that are proven success formula for many. And this is what we aim to achieve with these sessions that are a gathering of leaders and a knowledge-sharing community. We have one such leader on FaceTime with Leaders with us today, Mr. Anand Raghavan. A warm welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, Mr. Raghavan.
Hi, Sunny. Thank you for the welcome.
Pleasure. An IT professional with a total work experience of 28 years, of which he has dedicated 24 years to Infosys Ltd. Starting out as a software engineer and reaching the position of vice president. At Infosys, he has played multiple senior roles as delivery manager, head of strategy and operations for business units, and head of business solutions for IT. He has been instrumental in rolling out large and complex programs for the company in the area of sales, marketing, project delivery, business intelligence and analytics, enterprise mobility, social collaborations, and enterprise portals. In his latest role, Mr. Raghavan has been part of the core team of transforming Infosys and setting the stage for a truly digital Infosys by applying the principles of Sentient, building Infosys' own platform suite, and executing the program in truly agile mode. Currently, he is a mentor and angel investor in multiple startups that are transforming businesses in areas of FMCG, green tech, and products. So, Mr. Raghavan, could you please let us know about your journey of becoming vice president at Infosys?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Sunny, once again. It's been a long journey. I started my career in Infosys in 1995. But before that, I spent about close to 2 years with another IT company, Wipro Infotech. So that was my first job of college, where I got exposed to the field of technology. As you know, now Wipro is more famous for its IT services, but at that point of time, Wipro was also a big player in the computer industry. So it was making mainframes, desktops, servers for corporations, which were getting on to the IT journey of transforming their systems from manual to IT related activities. So I was involved there for about 2 years in getting my hands dirty with various types of servers and desktops, evaluating them. So that got me in touch with new technology, because that was the first time a lot of new stuff was coming into India with tie-ups with global vendors. So I would get my hands dirty, try a lot of new stuff, train people in the field with these technologies. So that got me molded from a technology perspective. So end of 95, I shifted to Infosys as a software engineer, more focused on the software perspective. And that journey of 24 years has been phenomenal and wonderful, because when I joined Infosys, it was less than 1,000 people in terms of size.
Right.
And when I left Infosys, it had crossed 2.5 lakh people in size. So
My God.
So that's the journey from a software engineer that I started off with. Predominantly, I played multiple roles, as you talked about, from a software engineer in the project delivery systems. The first few years of my journey in Infosys was, working with various clients, helping them build their software in the technology space, in the telecom, in the new tech space there, in the telecom, where things were what you and I are using now from a telecom perspective, right? Internet and stuff like that is where they were designing those large networks equipment, and we had to build the software, test it out, integrate them, and test them, and all that high-tech stuff, which India got to see maybe 5-10 years later is how we started working on. So that was a great experience working with some of the best technology folks in the US. So I grew from there, project after project, account after account for about 10 years, grew into becoming delivery manager. And from then, company also was growing in size as Infosys was moving from a small company to a company which had multiple verticals, business units. And at that time, Nandan Nilekani was the CEO of the company. So he brought in a new concept and said, okay, now companies are growing large. The company is growing large. We can't just think at the company level. We have to start thinking at the industry, at the individual business vertical unit levels. And each of the business unit heads must run it like a company of its own, being the CEO of that particular unit. So I was asked to take over the role of a strategy head and operations. And at that time, it was just a half a pager write-up saying, okay, we need to do all this. And nobody really knew what it entailed, right? In terms, so the group that I was part of was just about less than $100 million in size. And so I worked closely with the unit head, creating 3-year strategy plans, 5-year strategy plans, working with the corporate, alignment of these strategies of the unit and the corporate level, making sure that the alignment there. Then execution of these plans through operations, resources, getting resources across, capital resources, human resources, resources in terms of technology, resources in terms of getting visas for people at the right time so that they could travel to client location. So many things that involve in running an organization, but at a business unit level. So it got me exposed to how to run a business, how to plan a business, how to execute a business, how to go negotiate with your corporate in terms of budgets that you need for your business unit. So it was great learning. And at the same time, we put together a lot of processes for the organization of how multiple such business units can run in parallel within a large organization like Infosys. So each one could have it or tailor its own processes for executing its execution plan while the corporate is running it in a particular way. So it gave that flexibility to the organization to run differently, allow faster units to grow faster, and in that gave that perspective to the business units to run the way they want to. Being independent as well as being part of a larger organization. So that was my second half of my career. I did that for about 7-8 years. So the business units that I handled finally grew from about less than 100 million to close to $1 billion in size. So that was a great experience because then you're looking at how to grow an organization at different pace, different types of technology. The third aspect of my career in Infosys was in the IT group of Infosys. Just like everyone knows that Infosys does IT work for customers around the world, this group does IT for Infosys. So it basically running the entire internal IT system, the organization of that size. How do you make sure everything is running the way, very efficient, the best, using the best of technology, leveraging the best of process solutions, making sure that people don't waste time, doing mundane manual activities. Well, many of those things can be automated. So the focus is on bringing in automation. And also, since you are an IT company, it's always great to showcase to your clients how you do it yourself in many areas, right? So like the way you talked about, whether it's how you run your sales organizations, how you run your marketing, how you run your business operations, how do you run finance, how do you run HR, how do you bring the best in breed processes and tie it with the best technology that's available at any point of time and make it very efficient for the organization. So that is the role that I played for about 10 years there in the IT group, working under the CIO. That is again another challenging opportunity because you had to bring in, look out into the outside world, look for the best in technologies, see how those technologies fit into your organization, and then integrate it with what is already existing. Because many of the time, I think when we were having discussions, whenever we try to change, systems in the organization, the phrase that people would tell us was, how do you change an engine of an Airbus 380 when it's in flight, right? Because you can't make the plane stop. You can't make the company stop. The company has to run. But how do you change its parts in a way that it becomes more efficient and more faster and more agile without disturbing the flight path of the plane? So that was a great analogy in terms of how do you do your work internally at the same time making sure that the organization is running. So that's been a phenomenal journey in 3 phases of 24 years. And I didn't really know how the time passed when of those 24 years, because you grow along with the organization from a software engineer to vice president, but that was just part of the job. So nobody looked at what your role was. You was just enjoying what you're doing in the organization and growing along with it.
Right. So from a small company to one of the biggest IT giants in the world, what made you stay with Infosys for so long?
I mean, the challenge was there every day, right? So every day was a new challenge. You're growing along, new types of people that you get to see on a day-to-day basis, right? You had small teams, but at one point of time, I had very large teams. So how do you manage the learning that you gain by managing small teams to managing large teams, interacting with the best in the breed in the organization, getting a chance to travel and meet people outside your organization who are once again the best in the breed. So from that perspective, there was enough opportunities, and you had no need to look anywhere. You only had to look forward and just move forward. There was no time to look even on the sides to see what else is happening around you.
Absolutely. So which were the most challenging and enjoyable job roles you have handled so far?
All the 3 were different because they were at different points of my career, right? In terms of the delivery was in my early stages of career when I was young, energetic, could spend 48, 72 hours straight in the organization without going home, without sleep. So it was a different kind of phase where you're growing along with people who are coming in from college, who are fresh out of college. So new ideas coming in and growing along with them while delivering the best projects part of it. The second half, the second part, which was the strategy operations, was more, okay, you've done all the jumping around a lot. Now, how do you stabilize and make sure that you help the organization sustain for a longer duration, right? You can do things once in a while, but how do you make sure that the same thing continues for a longer? So how do you put in those processes in play at the same time, keeping the organization nimble and don't make it heavy such that people say, oh, this is too heavy. I can't use this because it's too complex for me or for people in the organization. So that part is about how do you bring in simplicity, how do you bring in agility, how do you bring in efficiency into the organization. So different things that you learn in that phase. And the third phase was how do you bring in technology to make things to help that achieve those perspectives, because the technology was changing very rapidly post 2008-9 with the advent of mobility, mobile phones coming in. The growth of technology and the new things that were coming in was very, very, very large. So how do you bring in that into an organization which was used to working in a different way? Brought in new challenges there, and how do you integrate that into your organization? So all the 3 phases were, challenging in different ways.
All right. So, Mr. Anand, what technological changes have you seen in your professional life? And can you state your foresights on the upcoming technological trends, namely IoT, AI, ML, blockchain, Web 3.0, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, right, technology was changing throughout. In those 24 years, I've seen all type of technology changes, right from sending a note to on a pen and paper to moving into email versus making trunk calls to using mobile phones for communication, use pen and paper to register your attendance, to using your mobile phone to do your entry exit into your organization. So we've seen that transition of every new technology, that how we brought it into the organization, right? I think technologies, new things will keep coming in every day, and every in 3 years from now, you'll ask me the same question with 8 or 10 different terminologies that will be thrown up in play, right? I think the key is, it's not about what are the new technologies, how much do you understand how those technologies can be used in your organization, in your computery, in your industry, right? So I'll just give you an example of what we tried, or what we tried to do, right? As I said, Infosys is a very large organization with campuses around, and each of the campuses in Infosys caters to about 18-20,000 people on an average, right? So a lot of people come in every day, a lot of people go out every day, work out of different buildings. So how one set of technologies can help multiple business groups make their work easier. I'll just give an example of that, right? So from a security perspective, everybody comes in with their ID card, swipes in. When they are walking out, swipes out. In all their buildings that they come in, swipe in and swipe out. So take it from a facility management perspective, right? The same. So when you swipe in and swipe out, you don't know what you're doing, but actually they are IoT devices which are reading your card information of who the person is, what time is this person swiping in, right? Using this information, a lot of analytics can be generated out of it, right? For example, what is the trend in which people walk in and walk out of your organization, the entry exit pieces of it. So it tells the organization how many people will be inside the campus at any point of time, what is the inflow, what is the peak inflow. People come in more between 9 and 10, less between 12 to 1. So it helps the facilities team looking at that information in a more graphical way, in a more analytical way, to figure out how to manage. For example, how do you deploy security guards? How do you deploy other infrastructure requirements based on the peak load, right? At the same time, it also tells them at how much time or how many people are there in every building and how many are outside. So let's say there is an emergency situation and you need to evacuate buildings. So you know exactly how many people are there in each building and how many are not in the building. So to plan your disaster management and stuff like that. So just by using this one single IoT device that you and I think it's just for swipe in and swipe out, the facilities team can manage it. I can think of 100 such use cases only for the facility teams who can put this together, right? So I've already talked that you've used IoT here, you've used analytics here already in terms of managing this. At the same time, let's say as an employee, right? What do I get out of this? It can, on my mobile phone, I can develop apps or build apps in such a way that it tells me my average working hours. If I am using the company transport, again, the facility teams or the transport team can tell me what time is the next bus going to travel to my location. By putting these IoT devices in the bus, it can also predict or track the number of people going to travel in a bus. So if in that route, you don't want to stand in a bus. So many times you've seen that people get in a bus and they find that the next bus coming in is empty behind. So how do you tell the individual in the bus stop saying, hey, don't get into this bus. The next bus is empty, you can get a seat on your mobile device, right? So this kind of consumer information that you can build in just by using some of these IoT devices is humongous, right? And the amount of employee experience that you build, the amount of satisfaction that you build in your employees is large. So like this, how do you? So the key, I'm just giving this an example to say by just using one technology, how multiple business groups can start leveraging it. If they can start thinking, if you understand the problem, or if you can understand what the business team wants to do from building efficiency into their organization, how they can use some of these technologies in achieving it. So it's not about the technology per se, it's about where do you apply that technology and how do you use it to provide that insights to organizations or to business groups to make their job more efficient and more easy. So all these new technologies will keep coming in. I mean, Web 3.0, blockchain, people are experimenting with many things. From a technology perspective, they're just wow, but just understanding or learning technology is not sufficient. It's needed, right. It's absolutely necessary, but you have to understand, where do I put it to use? How will it help the end user, who are all in the ecosystem of when the technology is touched, who can benefit from this? So that's the key in when you're looking at technology. So it's not so much about the technology per se; it's about the application and leveraging it to the best of its ability.
Rightly said, Mr. Raghavan. So, since you are a mentor and angel investor in multiple startups in different business domains, where do you think a smart investor should park his wealth to generate better returns for the future?
I think everybody needs to be smart to knowing how much wealth he wants to park in the first place, right? So, right. So a smart investor does not put all his money in one place, right? So you have to distribute your wealth across multiple, some safe bets, some risky bets, all those aspects of it. Just like the example that I told you is, like, before you do an investment, I think try and understand what is that startup, or for example, if you're saying, okay, you might need to invest in a startup, what is the problem that the person is trying to solve? Is it being done for the first time, or is it being done by multiple? Is he a copycat kind of startup who's just copying it from somebody else, or is he brought in new ideas into the play, right? How has he thought through the entire piece of it, and how is he looking at building that startup from because many times you see, as I said, right, a lot of enthusiasm to build it, but they don't look at it from the 9-yard standpoint, right? What happens after 3 years to this technology? Will it get obsolete? Will something else replace it? So your startups will vanish, and that's what's happening in the startup world, right? I think people say that 95% of the startups fail in the first 3 years. So how do you know you're not investing in those 95%, but in this 5%? You don't know. It's about how do you make sure those startups are thinking forward. Do they have a proper strategy plan? Are they reviewing their operations on a regular basis? Are they reviewing? Are they in touch with their customers whom they intend to send their solutions or products or whatever that they're building, right? Are they getting feedback from them? Are they incorporating them as part of it? So you start asking those questions to those people as an investor, and then once you think that they have the right ideas and what they need is money and direction, and the right direction to move forward to, that's when you start putting in your money and hope for the best.
Rightly said, sir. As an ESG certified corporate governance expert, what values do you offer the corporate world?
Yeah, I mean, from a ESG as a concept is pretty new to many of the corporates. But they're doing many bits and pieces of it in over many time, from a long time perspective. But the way ESG is evolving now as an area of focus is much complicated, I would say. Much more thinking needs to be done by companies to do this, right? So there are multiple things that I look at when a company is looking at ESG. So do you understand the industry in which you operate in? So that's the first thing that you need to look at, from saying, okay, am I doing the right thing in the industry that I'm operating in? Am I doing it for myself, or am I doing it for a larger community, for the country, for the world, right? That is one aspect of it. Many of times, I think people do it from, people are in business for profits, right? But the other two parts of what a ESG talks about is the people and the planet perspective. So right. How do you make sure that you understand all the three aspects of it, and where are you starting first? If you start from planet and then move to people and then move to the profits automatically come. But if you start from profits, then you will typically neglect the other two. So how do you make sure that your focus is on the right set of things, you're doing the right things, and you're doing it right from an organization perspective, right? The other aspect of it, which we're working in a large company like Infosys, and Infosys has one of the best ESG reporting that you have. But if you're inside the organization, you still, as an employee, maybe senior leaders understand it well, the board understands it very well, right? As an employee, you might not really understand and appreciate what they mean. So how do you translate what the goals that an organization has picked up, so that you and me as an employee can relate to them in my day-to-day activities, right? How does that communication happen? In the project that I do, is my focus on ESG only for my organization, or am I also focusing on the company that I'm delivering this project to? What are their ESG goals? So how do you correlate those two? So you might be doing very well for your organization, but at the same time, completely violating the regulations in the project that you are doing it. So is that a true value that you're providing? Are you following ESG norms in the right way, right? So those are things that as an organization you need to start looking at. So when boards are not just about looking at goals and seeing if you are doing measuring against those goals in the right time, what does it translate to on the ground, to the company, to the community, to the employee, and how do you communicate that down to the last employee who can say, hey, I did this today, it's actually adding value to this aspect of the organization or to the community in large. So bringing in those concepts in the conversation, I think is what I'm looking at to contribute into it, because I've been on the other side of the table, right? In terms of being an employee, being a software engineer growing up. So now if you look at it from top, how does I understand how people think, how people feel when things don't get communicated properly. So I think the key is, if you focus on the value that I am looking at to deliver, is how do you bridge that gap? How do you connect the dots in various aspects that is happening, and create a storyline and communicate that very correctly back to the organization?
So insightful. So, Mr. Raghavan, we are building FaceTime with Leaders community for cross-pollination of knowledge and a community of independent directors for having a better corporate governance in the country. So what are your thoughts about these initiatives taken by Mr. Zishan Pathan, Mr. Heval Mehta, and the whole team of WTC?
See, I started when I started my journey outside Infosys, right? So I was looking at where do I contribute, and one of the things that I was looking for is there an opportunity for me to get onto the board of organizations? But I was struggling to figure out how do I go about doing it. There were a couple of groups that I found who are running certification programs and stuff like that, but they were very short duration, right? In terms of, okay, you finish this in 15 days through this hybrid module, and then you go and take your exam. But there was no thought process that I was getting back from them, is what happens next after I finished that certification. And that's when I found out about Director Institute and how the same thing is being approached completely differently. It's not like a training program you just go attend, finish, certified, and you walk out of it. But how do you be involved in it on a continuous basis, right? Through various mechanisms, through various interventions, and how do you evolve? Because learning cannot stop at one point. It needs to be a continuous process. So that platform that they're creating, one is to give you that entry into this wide space, but make sure that a community is built of independent directors. They are sharing information with each other through series like these. They're talking to each other through various social communication mechanisms, right? LinkedIn, various interfaces that have been built along with it. And bringing in experts from the industry. I've been very happy to hear or attend many of these talks and seminars by board members who've been in boards for like 15, 20 years and come and talk about, okay, what really happens within a board, which you can't get through theory sessions. You only have to hear from the stalwarts in many industries, right? And they tell you how it works, what happens, what you should not do, because many a times in these theory it only talks about what you should know, but what you should unlearn or what you should not do is also very important of it, because all of these from a board perspective is very tightly bound by laws, by regulations, right? And it's risky from an individual if you don't know all those aspects of it. So
Absolutely.
Creating that platform where outsiders come in and have that live conversation with you is an amazing. So it's not about a training program. It's about creating that platform for a lifelong learning which they have created is what brought me to Directors Institute, and I've been very happy over the last couple of months where I've been involved in going through this journey, and hopefully I'll continue this journey for a long time.
We hope so, sir. So great. That was fantastic conversing with you, and I'm confident that your insights will definitely inspire the future leaders. Thank you, Mr. Anand Raghavan, for joining us today, and we wish you the best for your future endeavors. Moreover, trust that this initiative by Directors Institute has unquestionably expanded the participants' understanding and enriched their minds.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Director Institute, for this opportunity.